In those moments where everyone is watching that work and it's like do or die, are they gonna hate it and like make fun of it, or is it like something that is absolutely insane and they, you know, it gets people excited?
It's an adrenaline rush.
Yeah.
Hey everybody, and welcome to the Art Not Algorithms podcast. I am Ty Allen alongside with Patrick O'Neill the star of today's show, McClain
and every show.
Portis. Every show we ever have, McClain is the star. But specifically today, because we're going to do something a little bit different, but I also think it'll be very impactful. And that's we're going to talk about McClain's story.
Oh, we're setting a high bar for this one.
So let me paint a picture here. We are four 21-year-olds. Well, Patrick, you're 20, but everyone else
depends on the ID.
Yeah, depends on the ID. But four 21-year-olds who started a business and are running it. And I think it's really important because it doesn't matter if you want to be an entrepreneur, whether you're an artist trying to make it, whether you're someone who wants to be a professional athlete or someone who just wants to make it in a field you're passionate about. I think this story transcends just beyond entrepreneurship. Mm-hmm. I think in a lot of ways it stands for, perseverance. It stands for, cutting out all the people who tell you can't do it and actually getting something done. And I think that applies to so many aspects of people's lives that this podcast specifically will be very helpful for a lot of people out there who are listening. So today we're going to talk about McClain. I know he's a little uncomfortable with that.
Hey guys.
We're going to talk about him.
All
and
right.
so McClain, I guess I kind of want to start with, where would you say you got your start? Where did you get your passion for being an entrepreneur?
I don't really know where it came from. It was just whenever I was in school, school is what takes up most people's childhood. So whenever I was around other people, I just felt like I wanted to do something that was different, that made me stand out. And so that, for some reason or another, always came back to doing projects on the side. And the projects that I found the most interesting were entrepreneurship type projects. So I'd say, when did it start, really?
What is an entrepreneurship type project? As a kid, what does that look like?
Yeah, so the first one that I really did was, I think I was in second grade, and my dad owns a chain of restaurants, and for some reason I was obsessed with vending machines at the time. And so we had this candy machine up in my attic. And so I convinced my parents to let me put it in one of the stores. And God, I haven't thought about this in a while, but I remember I would go, I think, weekly and check on those. And then I would use the profits to go, or the revenue just to go back and buy more candy like each weekend and keep filling it up. And I eventually got to the point where I think I had 3 candy machines in different stores just because I had saved enough from the first one to buy a second one and a third one. So it really started there, and that's when I was learning.
So as a second grader, you were putting candy machines in these restaurants and then would use the revenue to refill it. Did you make any profit at all?
I think like
grader?
$200 or something eventually.
There you go.
For a second grader,
that's not bad.
I was feeling on top of the world, that's for sure.
It's better than a lemonade stand. I mean,
you're walking around primary school like, hey, who wants it? Who wants it?
Who wants it? $200.
That actually, you saying lemonade stand, that reminds me. I can't paint. I'm not a painter, but I would paint pictures and sell them on the side of the road.
I remember this.
And I could consistently sell paintings for $50 on the side of the road.
What?
I mean, it was because I was a kid too, but like literally I would just go to my friend that lives in this neighborhood where there's kind of some through traffic, and people would stop and we'd be like, I'm selling paintings, and I could sell $50 paintings. I'm pretty sure it's just because I was like,
how old were you at
10,
that point?
Maybe
10.
Yeah.
So what is that, around second grade too? So it was very young is when you decided, hey, I just want to be a little different.
And it wasn't
here.
even about the money. It was more so just like I enjoyed the feeling of trying to get better at something, and the money was just kind of something that was like a physical judge of it. Like, are you getting better? Can you make more, or are you like losing and making less? Like it was pretty easy to tell that way.
So would you say the drive behind that was wanting to get better, or was it wanting to do something?
It was wanting to do
different?
something different for sure. Getting better was kind of a side product of it, but thinking about my other projects, especially video making, it was more so like I wanted to be different than other people and wanted to have stories that they didn't have.
Yeah, so I'm trying to understand that wanting to be different started as at a young age.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
and so you what made these candy machines, would put them into restaurants. You would paint and put them on the side of the road, and then what did that lead to next?
So then I got obsessed. I go through like, I used to go through brief stages of like obsessions when I was like, and maybe everybody does this, but I was for a brief period of time obsessed with like gold and silver. So I bought a metal detector, and I think I was probably 12 at this point, maybe 11. And I would research like old maps and historic places in Nashville, and like overlay current day maps in these old maps I would find, and then go to those places and hunt for like Civil War stuff. And Ty knew me when I was a kid, and he would have made fun of me if he knew this, but I loved it.
No idea.
Otherwise, you wouldn't have been friends with him.
So that I think was before the gold panning, and then Ty was actually invited to a gold panning birthday of mine.
I remember that, yeah.
Where we bought pay dirt online, so we're not going to like make any profit. But there's no gold in Tennessee, so we can't go like actual gold panning. But I still have.
You were searching for gold with a metal detector, but there was no gold in Tennessee. Is what you're telling me.
Well, I was searching for old coins at that point, and yeah, I like silver coins. And
I want to point out that kids who are 12 years old, typically in our area, were doing sports, playing football, basketball. You know, the birthday parties would be.
I like sports too. Let's not paint me as an unathletic kid.
We'll get there. But I just want to point out how different this was.
That's
there wasn't anyone doing that.
Because I'm from California, which is the gold rush, right?
Yeah.
So there, almost every year from, let's say, from 4th grade to like 7th grade, there was some sort of gold-related field trip.
Really?
So doing the gold panning and stuff, there's overnight camps. The older you got, you'd stay for a week, and it was all organized through the school.
That's
so to me, if someone took extra interest in it, it wouldn't be that weird.
Really?
Huh.
So it's kind of like a different perspective where you guys, that was something really out of the norm. It was like, that was something in the norm, and then if someone focused on it, it'd just be like, okay.
Interesting.
Yeah, so now we were in Tennessee, so didn't you import the sand from Alaska or something?
Yeah. So you buy pay dirt online, and they ship it pay dirt. So it's like it's come from like a mine, and it's like the stuff that's already been filtered through once, so like there should be gold in there, and then you buy pens and stuff online, and so I still have like a troy ounce of gold.
Yeah, I found gold too. I still have my little thing of gold from when I was 12 in my desk.
Yeah.
I'm not sure when I would ever use it, but it is there. Like, it does exist.
I'm pretty set on turning my gold that I found into like some kind of jewelry at some point.
How much did you get?
A troy ounce or so.
A troy ounce?
That's like an ounce of gold.
Nice.
It's like what it's.
Is it like legit or is it like fool's gold?
No, it's legit. It's probably like 18 karat or something. It's not 24, but it's pretty legit.
Yeah. So, so you're the kid who, panned for gold.
Yeah.
On in your free time.
Yeah, and what's weird is I still kept friends that were, pretty cool. Like,
Still kept friends.
It wasn't like I was some loser or anything.
I kept them.
Like,
They might have left, but they stayed.
And that, I guess that's a good pivoting point into the ultimate insanity thing.
Sure.
Like being able to convince kids that had no reason to be making trick shots. I don't know. You have any questions to ask about ultimate insanity first, or like any kind of backstory on this?
Let me just paint this picture as well. McClain started making trick shot videos at one point. Talk about how you got started with that at the very beginning, because it wasn't like one day you threw like the little Auburn basketball into the.
So around the time I was kind of coming down off the high of searching for gold and coins and stuff, I was looking for another project, and the internet through like Vine was really starting, like that social media platform was really starting to take off right around then. And so I came up with this idea, and I think it just happened by accident one day, but and this is going to sound so weird, but I just had a basketball, filmed myself throwing it into the goal, posted it on Vine, and it was on the day that Auburn football had a game and they won. And so I started doing it each week before the Auburn football game, like making a trick shot, posting it on Vine and Instagram. And that was the year that they went like undefeated to the national championship game.
So you played a part in that.
Yeah.
So that was all me.
So where's your ring? That's a
It was actually pretty cool. Like, it became a thing where I think 5 Auburn football players started following me because of it.
Really?
They were like active on the team, and like actual starters too.
That's
people
cool.
that I recognized because I just did it every week. And so that springboarded into me at the end of that year wanting to learn how to put together a YouTube video. At that point, I had no editing experience whatsoever. I just posted stuff on Instagram. And
did any of your Vines ever take off?
I think I had one with like 30,000 loops or something like that, which felt awesome at the time. And yeah, so I re-downloaded all the videos and then got iMovie and, threw it all together and learned a little bit, put up my first YouTube video. And from there, I was like, I don't want to stop making trick shot videos. So I started convincing my friends to join me, which Ty might have some recollection of. Do you remember at all how that went? Like, I don't really.
I mean, I was, 14.
Yeah.
So yeah, I do remember all of it. It wasn't that long ago.
Oh, back in the day.
Yeah, way back in the day.
I don't remember how I convinced you guys to come with me the first time.
I don't think
convinced
it was.
is an interesting word.
Yeah.
Because 14-year-olds have nothing going on in
I
their
guess
life.
That's
Yeah.
what it was. It was like, hey, it's Saturday afternoon. Let's go throw a
some
football
basketball,
off the. I think it was like, let's just go throw a football into a basketball goal at the stadium, and we're just like, why not? What else is there to do? And then that turned into a whole series of trick shot videos where it was more people would come and more people would participate, and then it got more serious and it turned into a larger time commitment than just like hey, come here and throw a ball off a bridge.
Yeah, so trick shots were where I started learning how to edit, because then it went from me wanting to make these trick shots and have fun with my friends playing sports and like kind of filming them, into figuring out how to convert that into telling a little bit of a storyline behind it, and like getting cooler cinematic shots. And then I became the filmmaker, and then the editor also, and then I just kind of left the trick shot thing behind.
I don't want to.
You don't want to jump out of this.
Jump out. The trick shot.
Okay.
The trick shot was
Some
like
cool
a
stories
solid.
here.
Okay.
What, 2 or 3 years? I mean.
Yeah, it was probably 2.5 years or so.
Yeah. I mean, you spent 2.5 years making trick shot videos.
Yeah, from like 8th grade until probably the beginning of sophomore year, I
Yeah.
think. And yeah, actually, it grew over time. You can, maybe we'll put the link to my old channel down in the description. You can go through and see like the exact progression of me learning how to edit and make videos at that point. Which
Isn't
is
it called Ultimate Insanity?
No, we changed it.
SMP Life, right?
SMP Life.
Oh, jeez.
That was
Um,
yeah, that's a whole nother.
what was your because I've seen those older videos. I've stalked everything, right? What's your favorite moment from it? Because I have a favorite moment just from a fan perspective, but I'm interested to see what your favorite moment was.
Favorite moment?
Or like favorite story out of it, maybe.
Oh man, there are some good ones. Which one? I think one of the cooler moments was the first time that we convinced a real brand and entity to let us go there. So we went to this zip lining park, and they let us go there 2 days completely for free, and let us just basically zip line. I don't know. They were like a couple 1,000-foot zip lines, over ravines and stuff. And we were allowed to take our basketball goal there. And they just let us have the entire park to ourselves on a time when it was closed. So I think it was really cool, that experience of convincing somebody else that what I was doing was worthwhile enough to use their time to help us out. I thought that was a neat moment.
I really liked the one where you guys went into the trampoline
above
park
all,
after
yeah.
night.
Yeah.
That was really cool. Like the trampoline park was shut down, and they let 15-year-olds,
Yeah.
15-year-olds in there for hours after dark.
Yeah.
No one was there, and they locked up themselves. I'm like,
Yeah.
that would never
Yeah,
happen in California.
that was cool. That was I was a part of that one, I remember, and we started in the day. We had an entire Sunday to ourselves.
Yeah.
We started in the day. I remember I was there for 6 hours, left for football practice for 2 hours, came back and was there for like 4 more hours after it.
Damn.
Yeah.
Because I mean, you have a
Super
trampoline park all to yourself.
Yeah.
Like, why would you not
Yeah.
stay there and have fun? I mean, that was a pretty cool one.
Yeah,
That's
my
great.
favorite.
But I mean, what the sports center's got to be the
Yeah, so that was
the best one.
That was the peak of our existence at that time. It was pretty cool. Peak of my existence, maybe not everybody else's, but basically the biggest and coolest brand that we did something with was called what was their name? I don't remember, but it was
water
flyboarding
jetpack,
company. So there's
That was sponsored.
I mean, we didn't get
They
paid
just
for it, but we
let
did it
them
for
do
free.
it.
Okay.
Yeah. So you guys might have seen this. There's like it's attached to a jet ski. Then there's the hose that goes into these things that you put on your feet. So you're like flying around above the water as the water's propelled out from underneath you. And it's called flyboarding. And so I emailed this company out of Tennessee, and they let us go out onto the Cumberland River, which is right outside of Nissan Stadium, and is like downtown. You know, there's probably at any given time 1,000 people like around that, so it was pretty much just us. And yeah, the first shot that we did there, it took 7 tries, and I'm weirdly good at throwing frisbees. I don't know why. That's always been a thing as well. That's something else. We don't have to get into that. But
Supposed to be really fast too. You know what happens there.
So I was up on this like 100-foot bridge, and down below there was this guy, a professional flyboarder. And I launch a frisbee off the bridge. I think it's in the air for something like 15 seconds. And it just glides all the way down, and then takes a turn to the left, and then the guy shoots up out of the water and catches it. And we caught it all on film pretty perfectly. I think Michael was recording at the time. Shout out to Michael McGuire. And yeah, I thought nothing of it at the time. We went on the rest of the day, filmed probably 12, 13 more trick shots, edited together a full video, and then I posted it to Twitter, I think. And it started gaining a lot of attention there. And then somebody reposted it, not just retweeted it, like literally reposted the video. And then it kept, spreading more and more. I think Whistle Sports was the first like big entity that picked it up. And then within 2 hours of me posting it, Sports Center reached out like on that day. And they were like, we want to have it on Sports Center Top 10. And so it was like the number 1 play on Sports Center Top 10.
That's cool.
So that was pretty cool. And the video clip rights got bought out from us. So I made like $2,000, which I split between everybody. I gave everybody checks. So that was the first time I made money making videos there.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I'm trying. So I think it's interesting, right? Because the question is, why would you spend 2.5 years making trick shot videos when you could be doing hundreds of other things?
Yeah.
Like,
That's an
honestly,
interesting question.
Yeah.
I mean, why did you keep coming back to it? Was it because it was fun? Because I know that I had fun sometimes, but other times it was like, this really sucks.
Right.
So what about it kept you going?
Yeah, I mean, it did suck a lot of the time. Like, it was a lot of a headache setting it up, filming it all, making sure all my friends could go, making sure the basketball goal got where it needed to go. So what kept me coming back was the flow of it was addicting. Like, the flow of creating something that other people were going to enjoy watching. And like the camaraderie behind having to get the team together to execute that thing, and then like achieving it, and like when you're wrapping up the shoot knowing that you guys achieved it, it was pretty cool. And then I don't know. I'm not sure if I was making it because I wanted other people to watch, but it did feel good when like teachers would throw it on in class and everybody would have fun watching it, even though I would sometimes get made fun of for it. Like I still had a great time, like showing that what we were doing outside of, what was normal was pretty cool.
Yeah. So I mean, there's the fun, the camaraderie of having all of your friends there trying to achieve something.
Yeah.
There's kind of the rhythm you get into and the adrenaline you feel once you've made a shot.
Yeah.
But then also that aspect of other people watching and being impressed.
Yeah, I think the idea of people looking at it and being like, that's not a normal group of kids. Like they're doing something that is like, there's clear effort behind, and trying to, even if it's something that's going to go nowhere, like there's no business direction for that in any sense. It was like, but they're trying to build something that people will respect. And I think that was a cool feeling that,
yeah, I mean, it goes back to what we were talking about at the beginning, which is just wanting to be different, right? Like it seems like that was the point. If
yeah,
you're spending so much time making these videos, and you were known as like the trick shot guy, like that was well known. I mean,
that was the first 2 years of high school.
Yeah,
for sure.
I mean, I was in a couple videos and got people talked to me about, and they're just like, why'd you do this? I'm just like, I don't know, man. Like, but McClain, that was what you were about. That's what people knew you as, and I think people started to recognize that outside of just the normal like our friend sphere. I thought that was pretty cool that the school would recognize that, and people outside of the school would even recognize it.
Yeah.
As being different, And you said like a group of kids doing something different.
Yeah.
That's something big, right?
So when do people start asking you for photo shoots? Is that just the natural progression of being a trick shot star?
That comes later. The transition out of trick shots into more cinematic stuff is probably
that's something
next.
That's something to go to next. Just before we leave these trick shots, that was a big portion of your life.
Yeah,
and that's where you got your start making videos. Was the trick shots?
100%. Like, it was completely by accident, but I think it was kind of bound to happen. Maybe, I don't know. Like, I'm glad I picked up that basketball and threw it at a hoop, when I was in 7th grade, because I wanted Auburn to do well in football that year. And I just, one thing led to the next. I never let something stop me from doing something. Like, even if I get made fun of a little bit for it, I'm like, nah, fuck that. You don't see what I see. Like, I'm going to keep doing this.
Yeah, and that's important to note just before we move on, is like people did hate on it. Like there were a lot of people who were just like, I mean, one of our friends, I'm not going to name any names, but like was in one video, got so much shit for it, he's like, I'm not doing it again.
Yeah.
And I got shit for it too. And I'm sure you got more than any of us. So it's like, it honestly, like no matter what you do, everyone's going to say something about it. It's trick shot videos. It was nothing, right? You got more viral attention than anyone else in our school got. You got more attention from anyone else outside of it, but they're like, hey, this person's doing something different. They're doing something weird. That's weird. I don't like that. Yeah. I think that's important to note, is that you didn't stop, even though people were saying that. Yeah. Right? And so then the transition came from, you can call them like fun trick shot videos to more cinematic. Yeah. So how did that happen?
Yeah, I started realizing that what I really loved wasn't the basketball going in the hoop. It was standing behind the camera, telling a story of, and there wasn't much story to tell with that. So I had kind of creatively exhausted everything I could with making trick shots. And at that time, this guy named Sam Calder started making videos on YouTube, which kind of inspired a whole generation of filmmakers. And Sam just made cinematic edits. So I was like, I want to take what I've learned here and go out and do what this guy's doing. He was traveling the world, had the perfect life, hanging out with hot girls, going to the beaches, doing everything. I was like, wow, that's a cool life. I want to try and emulate that. So I, use the camera. And so, I started trying to figure out how to paint up a pretty picture with a camera at that point. And, cinematics was the first thing. And then I was like, I'm bored of that. Let's try capturing a story and telling that. And I think that's where things really started getting interesting, especially coupled with telling the story of the football team, which Ty was the quarterback of. So that, shout out to Ty. It's pretty
Ty.
cool.
It's always about me. Always about me. Yeah, so I distinctly remember when you kind of transitioned from the trick shots to you made the football hype video.
Yeah.
Right? Was that the first one that came after that?
That was the first like meaningful thing I did after that. That was like 6 months after I stopped making trick shots, I think.
Okay.
Then.
Yeah, I would think that'd be about right. And it was I remember we were going to the state for, the second time, or I guess it was the third time in a row.
Yeah.
And we're not going to talk about what happened after that. But I remember the entire school gathered around in an assembly, and this was my junior year, would have been our junior year.
Yeah.
To watch this video before the state championship. And
The whole school watched
the
it?
entire school in a very get me hype pep rally, like everybody get going, like a lot of energy in the building. We went to an all guys school, so when the energy's going, it's going, right?
It's going.
It was intense. And I just remember your video was the last thing to be played in that pep rally.
And no one had seen it yet?
No one
had seen it.
Oh.
It's a lot. It was a lot of pressure, and I remember sitting there like, this has
got to be good.
This has got to be good. Like this is a time. Like everyone on the team was like, all right, this needs to be solid.
Yeah.
I remember coming out, and it was the coolest thing ever. Yeah. Like everyone got really hyped too. I remember our coach watching it over and over and over again, and being like, guys, this is gonna get us going, like to do it. How did that feel?
Yeah, that was cool. Like, so just for context, I had at the beginning of the season, we had this kid, this running back, Ty Chandler, who was insane. Tykevius Chandler.
Gotta be respectful.
And so that, I think part of the reason I wanted to film that season was because I wanted to capture his last season at NBA, because I knew it was going to be something special. And so I think I went and had a meeting with like the head football coach or like one of the coaches or something. I was like, can I film this year just from the sidelines? And like, I went to a couple away games, not with the team, but like by myself, and just pulled up with my camera, hopped over the fence, stood on the sideline, and like all of my friends played football, every single one of them, except for maybe one or two. I think I had like 8 or 9 friends on the team. So I would just hang out on the sidelines with them when I could, and just, it was super fun environment. But yeah, I was like, most of the time I was the only kid on the sideline that had nothing to do with football. And I would just, while everybody else was in the stands, partying it up and everything out there, because football's big in Tennessee, I was on the field trying to capture every shot and make it look perfect. And so that was my first experience, really trying to capture a whole story and then shape it into something that people really liked.
I think what people overlook in that situation is just how hard that is to do, right? Because the thing to do, everyone's looking forward to Friday night. Going to the football game. At our school, people would paint up. They would paint themselves red and just run out on the field and then go in the stands and go ballistic and just go nuts. And that's what everyone's looking forward to. And McClain, on the other hand, would come with his camera. Yeah. Sometimes, did you paint up when you do? I don't
Sometimes
know.
I would.
Sometimes you paint yourself.
Yeah.
But then stand on the sideline while everyone else is having a great time and partying and film us.
Yeah.
Right. Making sure you capture everyone, like you're saying.
Yeah.
That's hard to do.
Yeah. It got to the point where literally, like, because I obviously, I'm a normal kid. Like, I wanted to go party with everybody else too. But it got to the point where I was so anxious about missing any awesome moment on the field that, like, I could not let myself go over there. I was like, if I miss something that's absolutely epic, I'm not going to forgive myself. I have to capture this. It's going to be sick. So, yeah. That was an interesting point. I hadn't thought about that.
Yeah, no. And then, you're sitting there capturing all this footage, and no one really sees why you're doing it, and then you present it to everyone. Yeah. And it's
that was the first time anything football related came out ever.
Yeah. So the entire season,
compulsive culmination of the whole
of the entire.
That's very cool.
Yeah. So I had spent an entire season, like 3 months out every Friday night capturing everything, and I had to learn how to like store all the files and how to organize it, and because there were thousands of clips I had, like thousands. I had to go through, organize every single one, figure out which one was an interesting play, which one had certain shots that I needed, So it was a whole process that like nobody really knew I was working on. And then I forget how, but I think I took it to Brad Joya. Like,
yeah, he probably took it to the headmaster and
our
showed it to him,
headmaster.
and he was like, "Dang, like this is something, huh?"
Yeah. So I was like, I want to show this at assembly. Like, I think it's good.
And did he watch it? And he was like, "Yeah, this is pretty
yeah.
good." Yeah, I hope if you're watching this on YouTube that something comes up where you can see it.
Yeah.
I think that'd be really cool. It was really solid, and then that continued into the next year because that was our senior year. And so it's like you don't want to miss any of those moments. I prefer the senior year one.
I wonder why.
I wonder why. Played a little bit of a bigger role that
watch
year.
Watch the video and you'll find out. It wasn't about Ty Chandler this time. It was Ty Outlander.
I think I had a couple projects that really defined like who I was at that point, and it was the trip to the DR. I also had a video that Mr. Norton really loved, who was our dean of students, and he would play it like multiple times, and that one was played in assembly. And then the football one we just talked about, and then capturing the solar eclipse.
Yeah,
that one I really enjoyed doing. That one I'll dive into it really quickly. There was a complete solar eclipse that went pretty much right over Nashville, like full coverage. And so I think it lasted 4 hours in total. And so I fashioned a lens out of those protective eyewear glasses and put it over the top of my camera and sat there on the football field for 4 hours. And I didn't have something that tracked to the sun, and the sun obviously moves. So the entire time I had to make sure that it was as close to the center as possible of the frame. And then I spent the next 2.5 weeks chopping down frame by frame that footage and like taking every minute I took like one frame or something like that, or like maybe every 15 seconds I took one frame, and then I had to hand align every single frame into the center. So that was like, I think it was like a 2-minute video or something like that, or like, yeah, something kind of long, but then it became a time lapse where it stayed completely in the center. You could see the entire thing. So that was that project.
So I think there was a cool transition from the trick shot guy to then it was well known that you were making these incredible films.
Yeah.
Whether it was a football, the Dominican Republic one was great. I remember seeing that, where you traveled to the DR and filmed the service that you guys did for all these kids, and then the solar eclipse, and then everyone was looking forward to the next video that was coming out, right? And I don't specifically remember a time where you were ever not working on some sort of video or something.
Yeah. I always have to be working on something.
I think that was an underlying theme of all of this, right? Is that need to stay busy as well. Because it seems like whenever something ends, when you're like, I've been doing trick shots for 2.5 years. Let's move into this. I was panning for gold. Now let's just do something different. Is just constantly trying to find that other thing to do. Right. And I remember you saying that from a long time. It's like, I always need to do something. And that's why you never want to work for anyone else. It's like, you don't want to be stuck in one spot. You want to constantly be moving to the next thing.
Yeah.
Right. I think that's something that's pretty interesting. But my question is, like, when you were doing all this, it was, again, a massive amount of time. Why video editing? Like, why creating these videos? Was it the attention you were getting afterwards, or was it the actual process of doing it?
I think it was a little bit of both. I really enjoy the flow of the process and creating something, but I create it because I love seeing people's reaction to it. Like when we were in those moments and it was shown on the big screen and everybody else around me, I could feel them reacting to something that I had made. And you can literally, like, in the air, there's something where it's like people are actually enjoying it. There's this whole, I don't know. It's so hard to explain, but like in those moments where everyone is watching that work and it's like do or die, like, are they going to hate it and like make fun of it? Or is it like something that is absolutely insane and it gets people excited?
It's an adrenaline rush.
Yeah.
Right. It's like, is this going to work or not? You put in for the Eclipse one, 2.5 weeks and 4 hours of sitting in the same spot to make 2 minutes of video.
Yeah.
Is it worth it?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And there was always a deep fascination of mine with this whole, internet thing. Like, I love having people watch it in person. That's probably, it feels better to have people watch it where you can be there. But like the fact that, 100 people or 1,000 people or 10,000 or 1,000,000 people can see something on the internet and like start to get behind something, and create some kind of a movement always fascinated me. And watching other people do that, I was like, I don't know how to do that, but I'm going to try and figure that out. And that was kind of my transition into college, actually.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say is
Yeah.
so throughout high school and middle school, you could say it was a constant, wanting to be different, needing something to do. Videography came in, you found that you enjoyed that process and the result you got from it.
Yeah.
Right. And then I think when you moved into college, if I'm not mistaken, it was like, all right, well, I can't just be a college student. I need to find something else to do.
Yeah.
And so where'd you go from there?
Yeah. There were about 4 or 5 videos I made in that time where I felt pretty lost. Cause like when I was in high school, it was like the small town, we're from Nashville. It's not really a small town, but small community that everybody knows each other. And so I could make things that were meaningful for those people. And, cause the football hype video, it's never going to be seen by 1,000,000 people. Not that many people really care. But our community.
After this podcast, I'm sure Ty's episode is going to go through the roof.
It should.
That community really liked it, but there wasn't a community. I wasn't a part of a community anymore. So I was like, who am I making videos for? What am I trying to do here? So I made one where I like tried to learn how to skateboard, and that was just because I didn't know what else to do. I made one about my first time going surfing. I had fun making some about my girlfriend. That was meaningful. Like there was somebody that was purposely receiving that one. So that one was good, but I was still kind of lost. And at that point, my community went from being a few thousand people to the entire world. And at that time, I was like, the algorithm is what is stopping. Like I can't figure out how to grow something that people really care about. So I became like deeply frustrated with trying to get people to care about something at that point. And through that frustration, I started to realize that the internet was this space where artists had to go to get their work noticed now. It's not so, I mean, you can be a traditional artist, and I don't even know what traditional like painters and stuff do. I guess you sell your work to galleries
Sell them
and
on
like
the street
So-
as
so
a
on the
10-year-old.
street as a
and
10-year-old,
make $50.
$50.
yeah, right. That's what the normal people do. But yeah, like if you wanted to be something in the world at this time, now you have to do it on the internet, is what it felt like to me. It's like there's no barrier to entry, but because of that, there's millions and millions and millions of people you're competing against. And so how did the right people shake out to the top, the people that really deserve it? And so through that, I was like, there's all of these artists. I'm surrounded by a lot, even here at USC, that were quite incredible. And I was like, not enough people know your stories. I'm good at making videos. Let me use videos to tell these people's stories.
And these were not just musicians. These were any artist.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I've always found that fascinating because, in a sense, you were an artist who felt like you deserved more recognition for the work you did.
Yeah.
So in turn, it was like, wow, like I'm not getting any recognition. You're not getting any recognition. Let's just come together and see what we can do. You know?
Yeah. Yeah. So I needed a muse, like something to tell stories about. I felt like I wasn't getting enough credit, like you were saying. So, I mean, it made sense to tell other people's stories. And I wanted to build this brand where I was this filmmaker that would go around and find somebody interesting from somewhere. So my freshman year, spring break, I took a trip to Hawaii, and, the entire time I was messaging 3 photographers from there, from different sides of the island. And, my roommate for the next year was from Hawaii. So I stayed with him, and like, he took me around to each person. And I partitioned the trip into 3 different stories that I told about those people. So yeah, that's kind of where Live2 started.
How did that go? How did that video do?
Video didn't do that well at all. I mean, it was the first try at something, but I felt like I was at least on to something. So I spent the next summer putting together the first Live2 team of artists,
Yeah.
which not many people know about, especially if you're following me now.
I know.
Pat knows. He was there. Let's see. I guess that was when you first started. That summer after my freshman year was when you first watched the backflip video. Because at that point I had the
but I had
hoodies
seen
and
your
the hat.
skateboard video.
Oh, you had?
Yeah.
Okay.
I didn't want to disrupt the flow, but I had seen that video.
Interesting.
I got halfway through.
That was a day one
I got
fan.
halfway through the surfing video, and I didn't like it, so I left.
Can't win
I was
them all.
like, damn, I really like this first video. I swear to God. In my head, I was like, fuck.
That's hilarious.
It's pretty funny.
Because he said you were going to learn all these skateboard tricks. And I
Mhm.
subscribed,
Mm.
and he gave up.
Yep.
He's a quitter.
Yeah.
That's the theme of this episode.
The theme of this episode is that McClain can't skateboard as well as Pat thought he could. That's the theme. I think that's cool, though. I mean,
Mhm.
it's a selfless act to tell someone else's story when you should be hypothetically you should be focusing on your own.
Yeah.
Right? Anyone who wants attention believes that the way to get it is to put yourself in front of the camera.
Mhm.
For you to be the storyline, and then attention comes around you.
Yeah.
What you notice is like, hey, there's a lot of other people just like me who deserve more. Let's do this together.
Yeah.
Right? Because you need someone
Completely.
to talk about, and they need someone to tell their story. It's
Yeah.
very mutualistic and honestly selfless in a lot of ways as a filmmaker.
Mhm.
Right? So, who were the first team of artists?
Yeah, so I spent that next summer. I was on vacation with my family, and that's when they started. Like, that's when my work-life balance started to like go a little bit, like a lot of work, a little bit of life. So I would spend 10 hours a day scrolling through Instagram, looking for people to message that like I believed in their work and thought that they had something going. Found that they had like a small community, and I wanted to. I haven't thought about this in a while, but I wanted to put all of them together. It was basically like the first A&A freshman class, but it was like just of artists of all kinds. So I wanted to put all these artists together and help tell each of their stories and have this collective movement of artists that were kind of making the come up through their own fields together. Just people that deserved more credit. So that's what I worked my sophomore first semester on. Was trying to tell their stories.
And these were, photographers, dancers,
Clothing
painters,
designers.
clothing designers,
Yeah.
Patrick.
You
and,
name
you know,
it. Yeah.
And
I mean-
all the while I was doing that, I originally Live2 was supposed to be a clothing brand where these artists, like the message that we stood for, would be portrayed in the clothing. So with each artist I worked with, I wanted to make a specific piece of clothing that supported those artists and hold them all in one shop. So they would all have their own piece of clothing. And, I wanted them to be cut and sew. So I spent probably 3/4 of my freshman year, which we didn't talk about, going from not knowing how to make anything, like any piece of clothing, and literally found fabric, found somebody who could help me make a prototype, made the prototype, found a manufacturer, and made 110 cut and sew hoodies out of that, and then started using those to support these artists through the film.
That's interesting. So I was around, like I knew you still, obviously, throughout that time, and that's the best I've ever heard you describe what you were doing.
Yeah.
Because it was every time I'd call, it was constantly a new thing.
Yeah.
Right? It was like, hey, I'm going to make a T-shirt like this.
Yeah.
I'm going to sell it. I'm just like, I don't understand how that plays a role. But,
Yeah.
but it was a group of artists that you were going to tell all of their stories, and then based on those artists, sell clothes. Still a little complicated, but it's there.
It's a little
right?
complicated.
But it's there.
Yeah.
And I think what I'm interested about that the most is that it's a continuation of this underdog story. This people who are different and talented deserve to be recognized.
Yeah.
I'm fascinated why that's your thing. Like it constantly throughout everything you've done, it's being different and getting recognition for being different, right? And being that underdog that doesn't really get appreciated.
Yeah. I've tried to think through this myself, like why that's the story I gravitate towards. And I can't put my finger on exactly why, but I know that like whenever I want to watch a movie, I want to watch the movie of the underdog that nobody believes in and does something outstanding. Maybe that's just how I was born. But I don't know, maybe one day I'll realize why that is. But like, I've just always gravitated towards that story. It's the person that nobody thought could do it that is going to do it.
I mean, I think from what I've heard today, it's you see a lot of that in yourself in a lot of ways. I mean, you said that one of the best parts of your videos was feeling that people were enjoying it. Being like, I put in all this hours and people are recognizing how great it is. And people did, right? The being on SportsCenter, a brand understanding that you're a legitimate filmmaker and saying, yes, you can come in here and film, right? That's validation, being like, you are legitimate, right? And that's something that artists and filmmakers and creators and people, it happens all the time. It's like, I am working my butt off every day. And I'm not getting recognized even though I deserve to be. And it's an underdog story because you were a college freshman making videos, competing against millions of people on the internet who was trying to find a way to make it. Right. And that's what Live2 is in a lot of ways. It's not, if you're looking at it at a grander scale, more than just what we're doing specifically right now as a business, it's an underdog story. We're four college students running a business. That's an underdog story. In the music industry, which is almost impossible to break into, that's another one. Supporting unknown artists who are literally underdogs in their industry. Right? That's entirely what we're about. And it all started from a very, very young age for you. Right?
That's kind of why like what we're doing is so personal to me, because like it feels still like that first time I picked up a metal detector. Like this still feels like that same continuation. Like it all feels like one thing that was leading towards building this. So like that's why I feel like Live2 didn't start like really when I was a freshman. It started like then, and so it's been building towards this, and who knows where it's building in the future. But it all feels like one project to me, not a string of them.
Yeah, no, it's interesting, and I think from there it kind of gets into our story, which we've covered in other podcasts and other times. It's then the Chase Paves video happens because he was an artist that you wanted to tell the story of, and it blows up, and you're like, wow, this is a great way for me to support people who are never heard. And and then Live2 starts, we bring in the team, and then we start rolling, right? And that's what happened.
And now here we are.
Hey.
No, I mean, that's the story, I think, is the underdog, number one, the constantly wanting to do something different. I don't want to overlook the fact that people constantly said you're not going to be able to do it. People constantly said it was weird to carry a camera around. I've said this so many times. I remember you going to carnivals with a camera and me being like, oh, Jesus. Like, I don't want to be like, is this for real? Like, you don't carry a camera as a 14-year-old to a carnival. Like, that's just weird. But that was your passion, right? You always wanted to be different, always wanted to be doing something, and in turn represented yourself and the people that you were telling stories of. I think that's what people should get out of this, right? Is do what drives you, do what you want to do. Don't listen to what anyone else is saying, and constantly go for it, because that's your story. Just constantly going for it, and now it's starting to happen.
Yeah.
I mean,
well put.
You got anything else?
I do have something to add, Ty.
Let's hear it.
I think is interesting is there's four of us, and we're always on the same page about what we want to do and the goal of Live2, and we're all similar mindset of being disciplined and being driven and having these goals. But I think the personalities behind it are interesting. Just everyone's doing their thing for different reasons. Like you just always wanted to be different from everyone else and do your own thing, and that was what was important, that you did your own thing. And for Ty, you've always wanted to compete to be the best, and Paris seems like she's always been the best. And then I've always wanted to compete with myself. So it's interesting that we all, our paths have all aligned, but everyone's purposes are different. And I think these podcasts with just like an individual, kind of introducing them more in depth to you guys, and honestly learning things about each other and about each other's perspectives, I think will be really interesting, because as much as we're a team, we're still individuals, and learning about who everyone is always something that I think is really essential.
And we are going to introduce each of us on an individual basis, because again, like you just said, we're all here for different reasons. We all have insight to provide, and what I think is really cool is that it really doesn't matter who you are. Right? It doesn't matter what necessarily you want to do. Typically on this show, we give artists advice.
Mm.
Well, I would say this is giving artists advice in the same sense, in the fact that do what you want to do and get to where you want to get to.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
it doesn't matter what it is.
Yeah.
Go for it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I mean, yeah. In the moments when people were questioning what I was doing, I never felt like it was a question for me. Like it was, you know, if it's what you should be doing, then do it. And like, you know, it's the age old thing. Like, don't care what other people think, but like if it's right, then you'll just know and just keep doing that. Like don't question yourself. Basically, be who you are. Yeah, that's what I've done, and that's gotten me to where I am now. So
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
yeah.
Yeah, so I guess if that's it, we can go ahead and wrap this up. Patrick, you want to take us home?
Yeah, I got you. Thank you guys for watching to another episode of the Art Not Algorithms podcast. I've been Patrick. Ty's our host. McClain, the star of the show, like usual. But this is something we're going to try and do more, introduce all of us on a more intimate basis. Just like Ty said, most of you guys are artists, but I think there's a lot to learn just from hearing people's stories and, you know, just learning more about the people behind the movement. I think is really cool. So make sure to subscribe for those episodes in the future. Comment some questions or topics you might want us to cover next. Make sure to hit the notification bell so you never miss these podcasts and never miss the introduction of our team. And I think that's it. Our socials, if you want to follow us on Instagram and see more pictures of our lovely faces, it's Live2 Create, TWO spelt out. Same thing as TikTok, but I assume you found us there.
Yeah.
Everyone always does.
If you didn't, please drop a comment. I'm really fascinated by how you got to this point.
Yeah, actually.
Otherwise, I think that's all.
Yeah. Appreciate it. Thanks
That's all
for
she
listening.
wrote.
Thanks, guys.